Hello, friends, enemies, and neutral parties. Welcome back to Airlocks and Aviaries. Today, we are going to be talking about an unassuming animated kids movie that is unironically genius and that I believe deserves more representation. Spies in Disguise. Okay, I know it doesn't seem like much. Silly animated family film. And to be honest, when I first saw the posters and trailers, I thought that was the case, but then I watched it. And now I want everyone else to see it as well. This was an amazing kids film that more movies should be like because it teaches kids what they need to be taught. It has a beautiful message, good representation, and breaks stereotypes. It teaches kids that science can be fun and even said trans rights, but I'll get into that later. Without further ado, let's just jump right into it. This movie was great. It had cool animation and endearing funny moments that didn't abuse today's slang.
I don't think that subtitle was in my favor.
And some awesome actors. Tom Holland and Will Smith were both great in this. But aside from the fun and flashy stuff, this movie actually had a great message. Messages and lessons are extremely important to all movies. It's the statement they're making, it's what they're standing on. Without the message, there's no substance. But in children's movies, messages and themes are even more important. That's because children are just learning about the world, what's right and wrong. They're gaining role models to emulate and ideas to believe in and interests to pursue. That's why it always seems like children's films always lean really heavy into the main moral at the end. A good message can shape the way kids think and make them be better people in the world. A bad one can do damage to their self-esteems. And it's oftentimes tough to figure out whether a movie was enforcing good ideas or bad ones. But this movie, I believe, had a wonderful message that's not done often enough and will teach children the right things. If you've seen the movie Spies in Disguise, which I assume you have, but if you haven't, it's about a tough, famous spy, Will Smith's character, teaming up with Tom Holland's character, a young, eager spy who wants to use his inventions to make the world a better place. Walter lost his mother to violence and advocates for non-violent approaches to situations for the entire film. Lance has seen a lot of violence and thinks that it's not possible to win a fight through kindness. But the main villain of the film, who wants to destroy the spy agency, was one of the people that Lance fought against on his many spy adventures. He was left severely injured by the spy agency and wanted revenge. Through this confrontation, Lance realizes that maybe Walter's approach is better. They save the day and bring the villain in alive. From this, we can gather that the main point of the movie is nonviolence. I'm going to repeat that for effect. The main point of the action movie is nonviolence. Wow, what a great message! And it's done in an excellent way. A movie that wanted to enforce nonviolent themes could have easily framed everyone who uses violence as the bad guys, and people who stayed out of all confrontations entirely the good guys. But Spies in Disguise said,
"There's no good guys or bad guys, just people."
This movie had the guts and the courage to tell children that the reason that nonviolence is a good option is because though people do bad things and people we love get hurt, we should still try to avoid cruelty and hate as much as possible, because everyone is a human being, and human beings make mistakes. In today's world, or any world for that matter, it's easy to switch into a villainizing mindset. In Will Smith's character wanting to beat up all the guys who attacked him. But as we see from the villain's story, hate just hurts people, and teaching kids to have mercy instead of just blindly hating, just killing all the bad guys is extremely important. This movie does recognize that not everything is all sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes people do mess up so badly that it drives them to do horrible things, and it's okay to want to stop them. But it's the manner in which we go about stopping them and the mindset we have about them that's the important thing. Both Walter and Lance wanted to stop people from doing bad, but Walter consistently chose the nonviolent approach, all the way up to the end when he spared the villain. There are some adults who still need to learn this lesson, and any movie that teaches kids and adults valuable things is a good movie in my book. As you may have noticed, the nonviolent message was not the only storyline to this movie. There was also the relationship between the two main characters, Lance and Walter. Lance is very tough, extroverted, and likable. He's also more than a little bit full of himself at the beginning. Then we have Walter, the nerdy, introverted, misunderstood kid who people pick on all the time. Like any good character dynamic, these two are almost polar opposites. But it was who got the character development that was important. Walter starts out the movie as a character you might have seen before, very non-confrontational, socially awkward, and introverted, and ends the movie in the exact same way. He's happy with his personality and he doesn't need to change it because it's okay to be weird.
Team Weird.
In this movie, it's the extroverted character who learns the lesson. Will Smith's character starts off as dismissive of the people he deems lame and weird and tries to be cool and confident. But he learns, after being literally brought down, that sometimes it's okay to calm down and let someone else take the lead. In a world of stereotypes that paint the nerdy character as a coward, brave nerd representation is important. And speaking of nerds, this movie did a great job of not only representing children who like science,
because the refracted light causes the endocrine cells to release serotonin.
Bond. Hydrogen bond. Fact. Did you know that pigeons can see in slow motion? Because pigeons can fly up to 92.7 miles per hour? Oh yeah! I'm gonna science all over your face!
this movie also integrated a lot of real science into the spy fiction movie.
Exothermic reaction. That's an exothermic reaction. You just drank an ingestible formula that uses a CRISPR-Cas9 genetic editor to resequence your DNA on a molecular level. Science rocks.
This kind of thing gets children interested in science, which is just as important as teaching kids to accept themselves. Speaking of breaking stereotypes and teaching kids the right thing, let's talk about Spies in Disguise and its fabulous non-toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity is a term that is usually used to describe poorly written male characters. They're damaging because they're used to create the myth that in order to be confident in one's masculinity, one needs to be overly strong and tough, emotionless, sexist, homophobic, and enjoy violence. Obviously, this is not very good. Spies in Disguise teaches non-toxic masculinity perfectly. Let's see how. As you know, or you would if I did my job correctly, Walter is confident in his differentness. He is a great protagonist who loves science and is smart and cool in his uncoolness. He kicked robot butt and is a great role model for kids. He's also extremely confident in being what not people think as typically masculine. He loves his mom, wears pink frilly aprons,
Thank you!
owns a unicorn plushie, has a pet pigeon he names Lovely. He cries while he watches cheesy romantic movies. His main gadgets involve rainbows, kittens, and pink glitter. This boy is an icon and is wonderful for teaching children, boys, girls, and undecideds alike, that liking these things is not degrading, even though disrespectful people
Weirdo.
will look down on them. Oftentimes in movies, these traits are given to the villain to show that these traits are bad and wrong. But enough about queer coding. This movie destroys all of that with Walter. Lance helps with this too. Yes, he looks down on all of this in the beginning, but that makes it even better for this message. He's drifting into the toxic masculinity stereotype himself. He doesn't want to work with people or have friends.
I fly solo.
He enjoys violence and looks down on Walter's cutesy ways and non-confrontational methods.
It's kind of violent, don't you think?
Can't save the world with a hug, Wilson.
But throughout the movie, he learns that working with other people, or even pigeons, is a good thing. He becomes good friends with Walter, and through the friendship, he shows affection.
I can do that because I got lips now.
Through almost losing Walter, he shows his emotions.
No!
Spies in Disguise teaches kids that not only is nonviolence cool, but so is being confident in one's interests and emotions. That gets big points right there. However, this movie does have some room to improve, and it's in the department that I specialize in, female characters. My only wish is that more movies like this starred girls as well as boys in the main roles, because girls want to be characters other than princesses too. We want to be spies and superheroes and fantasy questing heroines too. It's not very hard to write kids' movies starring a girl who is not a princess, no matter how badass the princess. So I'll admit I was a little disappointed that this movie just piles onto the long list of movies starring male action heroes. But that's not to say that this movie was sexist. Actually, the opposite. This movie did very well on the female characters, even though they weren't front and center. The head of the spy agency was a cool badass woman.
No, do not engage.
Then we have Marcy.
Oh, I dare you.
And Eyes,
Spectral analysis and quantum optical thermography.
both of the members of the team who were trying to bring lights into the agency. But the agency wasn't corrupt, don't get me wrong. This movie took a trope that's been run into the ground and destroyed it. Yes, the spy agency was pushing him, but they admitted that they were just trying to get the information to investigate the problem. It added tension to the movie with them pursuing him the whole time without making the rival female character the villain. And when we learn the truth, we have some good, top-notch communication where Marcy and Lance have a conversation and she admits she was wrong about him. And he admits it wasn't crazy for her not to believe him.
Would you look at that? There's a man with a robot hand wearing your face who took the M9 assassin. Guess I owe you an apology.
Okay, go ahead.
No, that was it. That was the apology.
Oh, I accept.
But you gotta admit, it was a little Scooby-Doo.
Oh, 100% Scooby-Doo.
And bonus points. These two have a great sibling-like relationship throughout the rest of the movie.
You should have seen your face when we grabbed you.
I didn't make a face.
No one's ever looked more scared.
Are you two finished?
And I love it. Girls and guys can be just friends. Another great message. And while we're on the topic of strong female characters, let's have a word about Walter's mom. This woman was his role model who inspired him to keep going throughout the movie. And yes, it's kind of cliche that the mom died at the beginning, but so many movies focus on the dead dad or the father-son relationship. Not a lot of them focus on the mother-son relationship or the mother-motivator relationship, which is just as important. Points there too. Now, alright, it's time to tackle what I think is the most interesting statement that this movie made, and one that you probably clicked on this video for. Trans rights. Yes, this movie, and every other freaking action movie released these days, has a sad lack of LGBT representation aside from these subtle background gays.
Morning, sir.
Fellas, give it to me.
Dude, did you see that?
Never wash that hand again.
I feel stronger. Like, I legit feel stronger.
Can I hold it?
Yeah.
It's just a wonder.
Never wash that hand again!
But this movie said trans rights. Anyone else remember this scene?
Will you stop? You're squeezing too. Oh, whoa. Walter, what happens in the submarine stays in the submarine.
You just laid an egg. You laid an egg!
It just kind of slipped out, man.
You just laid an egg! Lance, this is amazing. Do you not realize what this means? You're a girl!
Oh, excuse me?
Of course, of course! That's why I couldn't figure this out. I used Lovey's DNA in the serum.
When Lance was turned into a pigeon, he was given a biologically female body. Yes, no, I know there's no such thing as biologically female, but he was given a body that was able to lay eggs, which makes sense because Walter was used the DNA from Lovey, the pigeon. But, hello, he was still Lance Sterling. He wasn't turned into a feminine, weirdly sexualized animal that you see from a lot of animated films. Lance Sterling had the same voice, personality, identity, and pronouns. He was just given a pigeon's body that happened to be able to lay eggs. This movie, which, as I said, has been using real science to support the fiction, said that genitalia has nothing to do with gender. And I think that that's beautiful. We all know that science said trans rights. I mean, that's obvious. But for a big animated kids film, to say that is a big step. It teaches kids the right things, too. Trans rights. Let's go! In conclusion, I think this movie is the best animated movie to have been released in a while. It subverts stereotypes, promotes positive messages in a cool and fun way, has important nerd representation, and even said, through the power of pigeon transformation, that trans people are valid. Messages like this in children's movies are extremely essential to growing a better and more accepting world. The more kids are taught to love themselves and be accepting of others, the more likely they'll grow up to be accepting adults. And what better place to teach them than the way they'll listen? A fun-filled, animated action movie starring Tom Holland and Will Smith, Spies in Disguise. Thank you everyone for watching. It's been real fun. Hope to see you in the next video. Bye.